This week, on the holiday season finale of Real Faith, we'll be reviewing the star-studded screen adaptation of the Tony Award-winning musical Les Miserables and the true-life survival drama The Impossible. All that and more coming up on Real Faith, film reviews you can have faith in.
Who am I? Can I condemn this man to slavery? Pretend I do not feel his agony. This innocent who bears my face, who goes to judgment in my place. Who am I? Can I conceal myself forevermore? Pretend I'm not the man I was before. And must my name until I die be no more than an alibi? Must I lie? How can I ever face my fellow men? How can I ever face myself again? My soul belongs to God, I know. I made that bargain long ago. He gave me hope when hope was gone. He gave me strength to journey on. Who am I? Who am I? Jean Valjean.
Hugh Jackman searches his soul, but will he find an Oscar to put alongside his Tony and Emmy Awards? I'm Stephen Gradanis, film critic for the National Catholic Register and creator of DecentFilms.com.
And I'm David DeSerto, former reviewer for the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops' Office for Film and Broadcasting. And this is Real Faith, the film review show where we'll be looking at movies through a Catholic lens. There's been no less than 8 former film adaptations of Victor Hugo's classic, but this is the first adaptation of the hugely popular musical, which was one of the longest running on Broadway. And while I am among the few people on the planet who did not see the stage show, there may be some folks who are just not familiar with the story. Set in the early 19th century, the film stars Hugh Jackman as hardened ex-con 24601 Jean Valjean, recently released after serving 19 years of cruel labor for stealing a loaf of bread. A life-changing encounter with a compassionate bishop from whom he seeks shelter sets him on the road to redemption. Breaking his parole, he starts a new life as a respectable businessman. But his past comes back to haunt him in the person of Russell Crowe's implacable police inspector Javert, who recognizes his old prisoner and takes up a relentless pursuit of justice. Despite limited screen time, Anne Hathaway provides pivotal support as the tragic Fantine, a destitute factory worker turned prostitute whose young, illegitimate daughter, Cosette, is rescued by Valjean from unsavory innkeepers, played by Helena Bonham Carter and Sacha Baron Cohen, and raised as his own. Cosette, who matures into Amanda Seyfried, catches the eye of Eddie Redmayne's gallant revolutionary Marius, much to the heartbreak of Samantha Barks Eponine, whose unrequited affections prove fateful during the tragic Paris uprisings of 1832, in which both she and Marius take part.
You know, there's so much going on in Les Mis. There's so many characters, there's so much plot, there are so many themes, there's piety and moral uplift, there's political rabble-rousing, adventure, romance, farce, bawdy, so many different moods and tones. So before picking one particular angle to attack, let me just say, globally, I think fans of the show will find a lot to enjoy in this film. I should say, I have seen it on Broadway only once. I enjoyed it on Broadway. I really enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it partly just because it is Les Mis, in a way that, for instance, The Hobbit, which we reviewed last week, was not The Hobbit. These are the characters and the themes that we know and love, in particular the theme of redemption and really of salvation, and a very literal Catholic depiction of salvation ultimately is honored throughout the film, but it's everything that you love, I think, about the stage version really comes through here.
Yeah, you know, when people often say that Hollywood is anti-Catholic or anti-religion, I usually point to films like Chariots of Fire or The Mission. But moving forward, I think this is another film that I could point to. There's still a couple of films that we haven't seen, but at the moment, I think it's really going to take something to bowl me over to knock Les Mis off my favorite film of the year. we could talk about its lavish production design and the sweeping scope of the film. But I agree with you that this film, even though it spans decades and literally has casts of hundreds, if not thousands in some scenes, it's really a very intimate story about the journey of one man's soul towards redemption and salvation. Pius XII, in his now famous 1955 exhortation to the Italian film industry on his definition of what would constitute an ideal film, included among its criteria that a film would show people that they can rise after every fall and return to the right path, and that people, in short, can go from good to better through the use of their freedom. And I can't really think of a better recent example of a film that does that than Les Miserables.
Of course, those moral themes are found also in the stage version and in the novel. Film is a different medium, and a film version needs to do things that you can't do in those other mediums. And so some of the things that this version of Les Miserables does, on the screen you can have big sweeping shots and a scale that you can't do on the stage, from that magnificent opening shot where the camera comes up out of the sea and shoots over this ship, and we see the convicts up to their chests in seawater, hauling this ship into dry dock, singing "Look Down."
Right from that opening scene, you know
Right.
you're in for something special.
And that shot is echoed later in the film as Jean Valjean is carrying Marius to safety through the sewers of Paris, and he's up to his chest in the muck of the sewer, something again that you can't do on stage. So there's a scale here, but there's also an intimacy. The camera can bring us very close to the actors, and one of Hooper's main moves in the film is to shoot the songs in close-up and with extended shots. Some of this is very powerful. Really, the standout piece here, obviously, is Anne Hathaway's rendition of the famous, iconic "I Dreamed a Dream," which she does unbroken in one take, very close-up. It's so close-up, and with her shorn hair and the agony on her face, I was actually put in mind of the famous performance of Falconetti in Dreyer's Silent: The Passion of Joan of Arc, and not in a bad way. The comparison occurred to me, and it.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the show-stopping moments among many in this film, and I was weeping. But you're right. It really is reminiscent of an old-fashioned type of filmmaking. It even called to mind the old Fred Astaire films where they would do his dance sequences in one take and they would just let the camera linger. And Hooper doesn't, strongly resist that urge to sort of incorporate this MTV style, quick cut editing. It really captures the nuances and the emotion.
And what you get, particularly because the actors are actually singing on the set, unlike most film musicals, the singing was not done in a studio with the actors then lip syncing on camera. You get an immediacy of performance. There's something that happens in a theater when actors are singing and performing on a stage where the plot and the characters recede and just the joy of the performance really comes through. And that happens here in a way that it doesn't with many film musicals, whether it's Hugh Jackman, who of course is an old song and dance man and who is more than up to the musical challenges here, or even Russell Crowe, who has been in rock bands and he's sung before. He's not totally up to the challenge here.
He holds his own, but
he holds his own. But even when he isn't as good as he could be, his presence and his commitment are still enjoyable to watch.
He is a commanding screen presence. Going back to some of the themes, I really think it's important also to mention one of the main themes that's sort of woven throughout the film is the whole idea of contrasting mercy and justice. Javert represents this singular pursuit of justice that has no room for compassion or mercy. And it really called to mind, Chesterton's comment about heresy really being holding on to a truth, but a narrow truth that excludes all other truths. And in contrasting mercy and justice, the film really made me call to mind Pope John Paul II's beautiful encyclical on mercy, in which he writes that justice serves love, and that a world from which forgiveness and mercy were eliminated would be nothing but a world of cold and unfeeling justice. And the character of Javert really embodies that. Another theme is in regards to the Paris uprising. It really shows how sort of a utopian political solutions to evil and suffering are really misguided, and that evil and suffering is really fought within each individual soul.
Yeah, you know, the Paris Uprising was one of the many subplots I thought didn't necessarily work as well as some of the others. Another major subplot that's not quite on the same par as some of the best material is the love triangle between Cosette, her beloved revolutionary Marius, and Eponine. And that's not helped by the fact that Samantha Banks is so strong, and she steals practically every scene that she's in. But overall, a very powerful film and one that I enjoyed a lot.
The film is rated PG-13. Obviously, the Paris uprisings involve some violence. There is a bawdy number, Master of the House, which does include a brief but unnecessary sexual image. But there are parts to this movie that I think we both agree border on the transcendent.
I do agree, and for Catholic moviegoers this time of year, it's a welcome Christmas present. Coming up after the break, Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts survive the impossible. And David and I take a look at some of our favorite films of 2012. Next on Real Faith.
Did you hear from anyone yet?
No, Henry, you're the first to call. Is everybody all right? Henry?
Maria and Lucas are not here.
What do you mean, not there?
The water came and swept everyone away. And I found Thomas and Sam and Lucas up.
Henry?
I don't know what to do. I don't know where to look for them. Lots of people need to use this phone, okay? I was calling it. Thank you. You can't leave it like that. Go on. Come on.
Yes, Henry?
Brian, it's me again. Look, I promise you that I won't stop looking until I find them, okay?
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do because it's night time now, but I'll look in all the hospitals and I'll look in all the shelters and everything, okay? And I will find them, I promise you that. I'll call you when I do.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You know, coming so soon after Hurricane Sandy, some of the disaster imagery in this movie really hit close to home. That said, I have an ironclad excuse for having left you to go to the screening on your own. This was finals work for me, my diaconal studies. But here's what I know about the film. Inspired by true events, the film follows Maria and Henry, a married couple played by Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts, on Christmas holiday in Thailand with their 3 young sons, aged 12, 7, and 5. Tragedy strikes in the form of a monster tsunami, cleaving the family apart. A severely wounded Maria is washed away through a devastated landscape, with eldest son Lucas, played by newcomer Tom Holland, while a battered and bruised Henry, who barely escapes death himself, is left with the 2 younger boys, wandering in search of his lost wife and child. So, some charged, powerful material. How well does the story hold up?
Well, you know, this film is definitely a contender for top 10 as well. It's based on an actual ordeal of a Spanish family, and was actually filmed in the restored resort in Thailand where the family actually experienced this. Now, anyone who's seen a commercial for this film knows that what they're promoting is the scene where the wave hits. But it's really not a film about the tsunami. It's really a film that looks at that catastrophe, but telescopes it through the very narrow and intimate lens of one family's experience. But by doing that, it taps into something really universal, a almost primal will to survive. And obviously, as a parent, it resonated with me with the whole idea of being separated from your children and trying to protect them. And you know, the scene where Ewan McGregor is reunited with his 2 other sons, and he embraces them and breaks down in tears, and to realize that they're still alive, you know, given the recent tragedies in Sandy Hook and the images of parents worrying about their children, it really took on a really added poignancy. Now, I would have liked to know a little bit more about the characters. They kind of set up some backstory. There's some references to him maybe losing his job and her wanting to go back to work. But once the wave crashes, characterization really goes out the window. but still, you can't help but be swept up in the stunning realism of the imagery and the emotional intensity. One thing that I would have liked to have seen is, like Contagion last summer, when mass-scale disaster strikes like this, people tend to turn towards faith, whatever that faith tradition might be. And at least in that film, there were some fleeting images of nuns helping the sick people in hospitals.
Very
here,
fleeting.
There's no images. Now, I don't know about the personal faith of the family that it's based on, but there's absolutely no mention of God. That being said, one of the recurring images is the image of their wedding rings. And this is really a film about family, and not just family per se, but the importance of keeping a family intact. There's a really pivotal scene where the Ewan McGregor character has to make the very difficult decision of leaving his two youngest sons in the care of another couple so he can go off to look for his wife and lost son. Then he can't help but call to mind the image of the Good Shepherd who leaves the 99 sheep behind to go off and look in search for the one that's lost.
You know, the absence of characterization in a film like this isn't necessarily a problem for me. In fact, some of my favorite films that are stories about events have minimal characterization that actually can highlight the drama of the event, but only if the acting is really outstanding. Now, you've got some heavyweight actors here. How do they hold up?
Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts are excellent in this film, but it's really newcomer Tom Holland, who plays the eldest son, Lucas, who really steals the show. And his performance reminds me of a performance from 1987 when a then young Christian Bale really carried the Steven Spielberg's Empire of the Sun, also about a young British boy separated from his parents and trying to survive amid a hostile environment. The film is rated PG-13, and for some really intense sequences of the natural disaster and some gory images. There's also some very fleeting nudity. It's a film about family, but I would say to leave the younger children at home. It's more for teens and up. It affirms life and hope and family and the noblest and best qualities of the human spirit amid the worst of circumstances.
And with my diaconal studies over for the semester, I'm looking forward to catching up to it as soon as I can. The Impossible is already generating Oscar buzz and has made several top 10 lists. But will it make ours? There are still a few movies out there that we have yet to see. We thought we'd give you a sneak peek at some of the films which might make the cut. So as I think about my top 10 list, I tend to think about movies in different genres. One of my favorites for 2012 is an action-adventure movie. Now, I know some people were partial to The Dark Knight and Skyfall had its supporters, but for me, The Avengers was not only the best action-adventure movie of the year, but also the most fun. I just had more fun watching The Avengers than probably any other movie this year. Then I think about animated family films, and there were some good ones this year. I know some that we both enjoyed, but for me, the standout is The Secret World of Arrietty from Studio Ghibli. Studio Ghibli's adaptation of The Borrower stories about tiny people who live in the secret spaces of big people's homes. This is a great family film, and it really celebrates family dynamics. I particularly love the relationship between young Arrietty and her father, that kind of father-daughter relationship you don't often see in family films. Finally, what was the most morally uplifting film of the year? There are a number of possible candidates: Lincoln, Anna Karenina, Les Miserables, but for me, I think the film that stands out more than any other, and so far my number one film of the year, is the Dardenne brothers' The Kid with a Bike. This is really a transcendent film from two great filmmakers about the importance of fatherhood and the impact of fatherlessness on a young boy who needs his father to be more than he is. And also the impact of grace when a person says yes inexplicably to someone whose entire world is just one big no. Fantastic film, available streaming instantly on Netflix. And the other two, The Avengers and The Secret World of Arrietty, are both available on Blu-ray.
Well, I can't argue with any of those selections. I would consider the two films that we reviewed this evening, but to keep to your categories, for Family entertainment, I might throw out Brave. Pixar made amends for last year's underwhelming Cars 2 in a big way, in probably the best fairy tale and best pro-family film in a long time. That kind of subverts the trend of pitting the know-it-all teen against the parents. I agree. The Avengers was one of the most films, if not the most fun film of the year.
I know what you're going to say.
And the best comic book film of the year. I'll grant it that. But whereas The Avengers was a boy band, The Dark Knight was grand opera and a crowning, I think, conclusion to Christopher Nolan's, visionary Batman trilogy. Some other titles that I would just toss out there very quickly. Anna Karenina for its countercultural message about a committed marital love. Director Ang Lee's Life of Pi for its visual beauty and its spiritual themes. And also for those who are interested in indie films, Beasts of the Southern Wild for the fierce performance of its young protagonist, Quvenzhané Wallis.
Those are all worthwhile and interesting picks, and obviously there are still a number of films out there that we haven't seen. One that comes to mind is Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. That's been getting a lot of attention.
Then, of course, there's Zero Dark 30 about the manhunt for Osama bin Laden, director Catherine Bigelow's highly anticipated follow-up to her Oscar-winning The Hurt Locker.
Among a number of others. Obviously, we have our homework cut out for us before we finalize our top 10 films for 2012. And tune in to our Oscar special in February when we'll be unveiling our final lists.
On deck, it's another holiday movie with a message. So stay tuned for more Real Faith on Net. Welcome back. It's time to spotlight another Christmas movie with a message. As always, our guide is Father Robert Lauder.
This week, a Christmas film from 1954 that will have you singing. Father Lauder, it's all yours.
Thanks, David and Stephen. No film that has Technicolor and Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye and Irving Berlin music can be all bad. I'm referring, of course, to the 1954 film White Christmas. Not only did it have Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, it also had Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen, and it's a very entertaining film. Apparently, when they were casting the film, the story was that Donald O'Connor was going to play opposite Bing Crosby. O'Connor had made a film with Crosby when O'Connor was kind of a child actor, very young, and then they remade Cole Porter's Anything Goes. And Donald O'Connor was a very, very talented performer. Anybody who ever watched Singing in the Rain knows he's terrific. However, he was not a superstar. So when Danny Kaye agreed to do the movie, the rest of the cast was very excited. Crosby and Kaye play off one another very, very well, and there are a number of terrific Irving Berlin songs. One of them is, of course, White Christmas. Now that song had been used in an earlier film called Holiday Inn, which had Bing Crosby and another superstar, Fred Astaire. I know for a long time, I think it was the best-selling record ever. So apparently Irving Berlin was a very nervous guy, and when they were going to do the scene in which Bing Crosby sings White Christmas in the movie, Crosby says to him, "Irving, relax. The song is already a hit." There's a scene in the movie where Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen do a number, Sisters. And the gist of the song is, that while they're very, very close as sisters, they better not interfere with one another's love life. Later in the film, Crosby and Danny Kaye get partially dressed up as women and do it. And apparently Bing Crosby didn't want to do it. And after he died, Danny Kaye was interviewed, and I said to him, "Look, Bing, we'll do it. And if you don't like it, we won't use it." So they did do it. And at the end of the number, Bing Crosby breaks into laughter. And I can't help thinking that was not acting, that he really thought the whole experience was kind of funny. I mentioned that Danny Kaye was a superstar. He was under contract to Samuel Goldwyn. I'm a big, big fan of Danny Kaye. I think he was an incredibly talented person. He's the first performer I can remember who did a one-man show. He did it at the Palace. He was a multi-talented guy. If I would offer one criticism of the movie White Christmas, it's perhaps a bit too sentimental. I think the message for this movie is loyalty to your friends. Crosby and Kaye never forget the general who treated them so well when they were in the Second World War. And as a matter of fact, Crosby is very loyal to Danny Kaye, who at one point saves his life. So it's got a nice, warm, Christmassy kind of a message. The plot is very simple. The former commander, the general under whom Crosby and Kaye had served in the Second World War, has an inn somewhere up in New England, and it's a winter in which there is no snow, so people are not going to the inn. And Crosby and Kay get members of the regiment to go up there for a weekend, and they put on a big show. They get Vera Ellen and Rosemary Clooney to be in it too. And there's a scene in which they tell this to the general, and it's a little bit overdone. It's just bordering on being corny. However, any film in color with Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, and Irving Berlin music cannot be all bad.
That's why I always mix up White Christmas and Holiday Inn. I can never remember which is which.
Well, one's in color and one's in black and white.
Right. This is the kind of movie that I was talking about at the beginning of the show when I talked about how when you're watching a certain kind of performance, the plot and the characters recede, and just the joy of watching the performers on the screen really just has a magic of its own. And I'm so glad that Father called out Danny Kaye in particular for special praise. I don't have a lot to add to what Father said about this particular film, but I have to say Danny Kaye is an amazing talent, and he is in one of my favorite family films, a film that I can't recommend to enough family audiences, The Court Jester. The Court Jester is a brilliant satire on the whole Robin Hood Zorro genre of adventure films. It has an absolutely brilliant plot, and he is fantastic in it. I can't recommend The Court Jester enough, but see White Christmas also.
Well, this film is actually important from a technical standpoint. It was the first film actually filmed in VistaVision. But I do agree with Father Lauder that it is, despite the nostalgia quotient involved, kind of fluff, kind of corny. Numerous critics have pointed out that the thin plot is really little more than an opportunity for Bing and Danny Kaye to sing the songs that they do. And yes, the title song is become synonymous with the sort of secular soundtrack of the holidays. If you're desperate to hear Bing Crosby sing White Christmas, I would recommend checking out the 1947 film Holiday Inn, which, apart from a racially insensitive musical number, is definitely the better film.
Yeah, both are worth seeing, and the performances, again, are really what carry these films, regardless of the plots or the characterizations.
Now to recap this week's films.
Grandly entertaining, Tom Hooper's lavish Les Miserables combines the emotional power and spiritual uplift of the popular musical with the spectacle and intimacy of the big screen.
Harrowing and heartwarming, The Impossible blends breathtaking disaster thrills with intimate drama, affirming life, hope, and family bonds, while sweeping me up in its visual and emotional intensity and piercing performances.
Join us in February for our annual Oscar special. David and I will be handicapping all the big races, looking at the best performances and the best films of 2012.
From all of us,
To all of you,
have a blessed Christmas.
and a happy and healthy new year.
Until next time, I'm David DeSerto.
And I'm Stephen Gridonis, and that's a wrap on Real Faith.